This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do, but we're gonna do it anyways, because the last couple of days, I just have kept thinking about the comparison between Cyberpunk 2077 versus Witcher 3 as the better RPG. So I thought, you know what, why not rank them both on a few different categories? So let's do it. There's a lot of similarities, but also a lot of major differences. And I remember a couple years ago when I found out that CD Projekt Red made both these games, and I was kind of like blown away with the range of Witcher 3 versus Cyberpunk. They seem so different, but they do have a few similarities. So let's start with this subjective comparison, starting with the world itself. So Cyberpunk 2077, the world, it's set in the future in the year 2077, a very dark dystopian city where you take on criminal empires and infiltrate different criminal empires and factions and slowly become a legend of Night City, where humans are also mixed with the technology of the future, and it becomes very dark very fast. Then on the other side, we have Witcher 3. Witcher 3, I think, is set in like the 13th century. It's a fantasy RPG, a medieval fantasy RPG where you take on contracts and quests and try to find your lost daughter-ish character, and meanwhile you're hunting down monsters, humans, and everything in between. One game, Cyberpunk, came out, 4 years after, so that's something to take into account, but we gotta rank these games or compare them somehow. So, with the world, I'm gonna give the better world to Witcher 3. Both worlds are amazing, but I think Witcher 3 is definitely the larger map, but that's not the only thing. It's larger, but I think it also has just more levels to it. It seems like there's just more to do in Witcher 3, and the depth of the world seems kind of more vast than almost any other game. So world, I'm gonna go with Witcher 3, but Cyberpunk is not some weak world. It is amazing. I just think Witcher 3 has a whole another layer of depth to it. Next we go story and characters. Both very great immersive stories, and they really capture you, and they're very compelling with compelling characters. I'm gonna go once again with Witcher 3 because honestly, I think all of Witcher 3 in the expansions combined, I think it's the best stories. Not just the writing, but the stories and how it's pieced together. I think it's the best combination of storytelling I think I've seen in a game. And I haven't played every game. I haven't played every RPG, but the ones that I have played. Cyberpunk, it does have options. And funny enough, Cyberpunk did give me the same feeling towards the end of the game, where a lot of, important decisions were coming down to the line, and I was kind of getting nervous making decisions, being like, oh, should I set a save point here in case I want to come back later? I don't want this character to die. And Cyberpunk, spoiler alert, when you have that clock ticking down that you're going to kind of die at the end of the game, it kind of adds a different element where you're like, dude, there's no possible way that every single person can end up happy in this game at the end. Like, something's got to give here. So that was a cool element, but nonetheless, I think the characters in the storytelling of Witcher 3 is on another level. And I think it also has more, if I had to guess, I feel like it has more options with possible results for main quests and side quests. So, world, Witcher 3, stories and characters, Witcher 3, combat, whole different story. I'm going with Cyberpunk 2077 for combat. This is a symptom of Cyberpunk being a lot newer of a game, so the developers had a lot to build off of from the Witcher games. But the combination of builds you can do in Cyberpunk is unbelievable. I think Cyberpunk is now known as some of the best combat systems you've seen in any single player game, and that's primarily why I think it has so much replayability, because the builds are endless and there's so much variety, and it's really fun. Even just taking down a lot of games, taking down random bandits, or in Cyberpunk the NCPD quests or markers on the map get boring, but in Cyberpunk, because of the variety of builds and attacks you can do, it really adds another layer to the game. In Witcher 3, I'm not one of those people that hates the combat in Witcher 3, but it has aged a little bit now, being 10 years old, and it just doesn't have that same variety. And we can kind of tie builds or combat into the next category, which is builds. Definitely Cyberpunk has the advantage here as well. You can do different builds in Witcher with different glyphs, different Witcher gear, different signs, etc. But it's just not the same amount. The skill trees, the updated skill trees in Cyberpunk are a whole nother level where there's almost endless options where you can do katana builds, melee builds, shotgun builds, Johnny Silverhand builds, and everything in between. And I think it's a pretty slam dunk choice to pick Cyberpunk combat over Witcher 3. But obviously, it's also very different type. I should also mention that I didn't play either of these games on release, so obviously I missed a lot of the growing pains for both these games, especially with Cyberpunk. So that's how I'm viewing the games in this year, in this day and age. Next we can kind of put this in with the world, but I want to add it anyways, which is like exploration. Not just the world itself, but, you know, hidden side quests, Easter eggs, secret characters, secret weapons, that kind of thing. I was actually really surprised. Cyberpunk has a very good amount of these things, side characters, random pop-ups, the secret weapons that you find, and the Easter eggs, which Witcher 3 doesn't really have a whole lot of, but it's the same thing where Witcher 3 is so vast and it feels like there's so many endless things that you can do in the world and explore and find different quests, different treasure hunts, different Witcher gear diagrams, different everything. Witcher 3 definitely still has the advantage in my opinion. And then maybe this category, moving on to the next category, maybe this is a little bit pointless, but graphics. I know it's a little bit silly because Cyberpunk is, 4 years newer than Witcher 3, so you would expect it to have better graphics. But overall, I guess we can say graphics / art style. I'm going to go with Cyberpunk because I think Cyberpunk is genuinely one of the best looking games of all time, even without mods. It is insanely good looking. Witcher 3 is also amazing looking, especially since the next gen update, but I think Cyberpunk is still another level, and who knows, Witcher 4 could be better than both these games in terms of that, but that's for another time, and we'll have to wait a few years to see that. So right now we have it 3-3 in terms of comparison. Let's add in two more. So optimization, I would say Witcher 3 for sure. Even years later now, since the Cyberpunk release, there are still a significant amount of bugs in the game. They're not nearly as bad as I think they were on release when the game was pretty much unplayable. But I had some annoying bugs where I was falling through the ground and I couldn't pull up a menu or pull my car up around. So optimization, I would definitely go still with Witcher 3. Then why not? We'll add in music. I actually really like the music in Cyberpunk. It's obviously like a completely different genre. Cyberpunk is like techno, futuristic, alternative music. And Witcher 3 is, I don't even know what the genre is, but it's very different. But you gotta go with Witcher 3. I think Witcher 3 is like top 5 music playlist of all time for any game, which is unbelievable. So that means Witcher 3 is going to win it 5-4. Overall is the better RPG. Actually, one more category we have to add in here is replayability for both these games. Both of them have a ton of potential for replayability, and especially for single player games, you can spend hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of hours in both these games and feel like a fresh start every time. With Cyberpunk, the replayability, the uniqueness is probably in the combat, where you can do so many different builds in so many different ways, a lot of different endings, and something that Witcher 3 doesn't have. In the beginning of the game, you can kind of choose that initial path that is completely different, which is like Street Kid versus Nomad versus Corpo, which does change how your playthrough is. That being said, I'm still going to go with Witcher 3, even though Witcher 3 doesn't have the same replayability in terms of builds and combat and that initial starting path. It still has the crazy amount of decision making that I think even surpasses Cyberpunk. So I'm still going with Witcher 3. Some people are going to be mad about that, but I got to choose one. I'm going with Witcher 3. But I feel like I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on Cyberpunk because it's an amazing game, but I still prefer Witcher 3. That being said, if Witcher 3 is right here as the number one RPG in my opinion, Cyberpunk is like right there. It's very close. They're both unbelievable games, and everyone I think should play them. And definitely take your time with these games. These are not games that you play and rush through and skip through the side quests and only do main quests. Bad idea. But there it is, a completely pointless comparison. And yeah, I'm also, feel free to check out my Cyberpunk and Witcher 3 playthroughs in other videos. Peace out.